about in the space a few weeks ago, more of the sort of the legal side of things and the way that sort of the SEC and authorities are looking at these centralized entities that are maybe being built, or the way that maybe Ethereum and sort of other blockchains operate around this sort of almost centralized space. I don't know if Preston or yourself, Gene, wants to talk about that a little bit.
I want to throw out one thing and I want to hand it to Preston. There is a fundamental architecture difference between Chia and Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum has centralized monolithic smart contracts. It's like you're running an application. This is a bad idea. The reason it's bad is for two core reasons. Reason number one is that you, when you use an Ethereum smart contract, have to trust that the developer is both competent, which, by the way, making the language super easy to use attracts not necessarily competent developers, and not nefarious, that he or she has really actually given up control, doesn't have a multi-sig hiding behind it, doesn't have a backdoor that they've just waited for. But the problem is, secondarily, you have to know that the North Koreans spend all day, every day, trying to find a backdoor either that's intentionally there or not intentionally there to drain the funds from that contract. So when you're doing something peer-to-peer on Ethereum, you're doing peer to monolithic centralized smart contract to peer. In Chia, when you're doing an offer file, you are using communications channels to invite someone else to do business with you. That's it. There's no developer, the development is in many ways done. It is, audited in the sense of cats. It is, it's these narrow, very specifically understood primitives like cats, like offer files, like NFTs that transact peer-to-peer trustlessly, and that you have good control of and custody of when you're out like providing liquidity or making a market. It's just a very different paradigm.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in here, and I'm going to jump into something a little goofy. So depending on which audience I'm talking to, I refer to this as the nuclear bomb test or the space marmot test. And given that this is a Chia room, we're going to call it the space marmot test. And so let's say you and your developer team, right, decide, you're running a startup, you're on Ethereum, whatever. Let's say you're Uniswap, right? And you decide, Uniswap people say, you know what, fuck it, let's go on vacation. And not only are we going to go on vacation, we're going to bring everything with us. All our servers, all our devs, all our office equipment, the whole thing. The whole office, we're going to just go set up shop in Yosemite, and we're going to go camping for 2 weeks, the whole dev team, right? So they go out there, they do that, all their stuff is there. Suddenly, right, keeping in mind this is called the space marmot test, the battle fleet of the Marmot Star Empire decides it's finally time to take out the planet Earth. And so they drop out of warp in low orbit, thousands of ships, right? Total mass panic, widespread panic. It's just a complete, total disaster for the human species. One by one, the governments of the world surrender to this Marmot invasion. But before that happens, they identify your startup as the linchpin to humanity's planetary defenses. And so what they do is as they're passing over your campsite in Yosemite, they charge up their fuzzy, adorable Marmot ion cannon and they vaporize you, right, and your startup, right? It's all gone. So if after that happens, right, if after the space marmots vaporize you, the application still works, it's decentralized. If it doesn't still work, we ask ourselves, okay, why doesn't it still work? And then does that present, right, from an analytical perspective, we're obviously not really worried about space marmots, right, because space marmots are our friends and they want us to prosper. So they're not going to wipe out the human species. What we are worried about are regulators, right, because regulators don't like us and they don't want us to prosper. So if you can be taken out by the Marmot ion beam, right, from orbit, and then your application will stop working, as would be the case with Uniswap, right, including with their new KYC primitives, right? If there's no one to check whether the KYC is valid, that new application is going to stop working. So the question is, does it still work? In the case of Chia, for example, by contrast, you look at cats and you look at all of the functionality that's in every single user wallet, and you can say, actually, you know what? You could vaporize a single company, right, that has a cat that's issued Marmot coin or something like that. And if that were to happen, what would happen is, if that were to happen and the company were vaporized, the chain wouldn't give a shit. You'd have to take out, just like with Bitcoin, you would have to take out every single node, right, or all but 2 nodes, essentially, to shut down the system. So because the protocol has been designed in such a way that it forms some very basic but very firm opinions about the types of transactions that blockchain users want to engage in, you don't have this over-reliance on outside infrastructure, whether that be whether that be a user interface, whether that's an oracle, right, a price oracle, which is telling you what to do. And so as a result, we can fully disaggregate the ecosystem into 2 types of software, right, or 2 types of products. Whereas with Ethereum, you can't. So with Ethereum, if you want to run a DEX, what you have to do is you have to have the software, the client, a user interface that shows you the order book. And then unless you're going to be interacting with Ethereum through the command line, you've got to go through that user interface, generally speaking hosted by a third party, in order to actually get your command out to the network. Legally, especially in the United States, that's a really big problem, right? It's probably also a problem in other places for a variety of different reasons, but in the US, it's potentially a criminal problem from a money transmitter point of view, and it's potentially a civil problem from either the SEC's point of view, if you're trading something the SEC thinks is security, or from the CFTC's point of view, if you're trading something which is leveraged or a derivative, right? And so what happened about a month and a half, is that 3 big providers of this type of tech in the Ethereum ecosystem, Open, Deridex, and one other, the name currently escapes me, ZeroX, excuse me, all got dinged by the CFTC, who said, okay, guess what? You can't do this anymore. So they all settled with the CFTC, and they're shutting down their U.S. operations, and who knows what else they'll be doing in the near future. But essentially, that model is no longer sustainable. What Chia does, and has done, and I know they've been planning for this for a long time, because I've known Gene and Bram and people who preceded them, actually, and so Ryan Singer, for example, for years. They've been thinking about this kind of stuff way ahead of time. And if you can have the user control everything, right, about the application, right? Everything's running on their computer locally. They're just running a node on the blockchain, but they can just run apps on their own machines, and then they can have information centers, right, information providers that play no role in contract execution, so your typical blockchain explorer, sitting there indexing the data separately. That's something which is a compliant solution, right? You don't have a third party in that who's actually carrying out these financial transactions. So that's what we're seeing now, is that other projects, particularly in Ethereum, but also in Urbit, also in Bitcoin, are starting to say, okay, well, but really in Ethereum, people are trying to pivot, but what they're doing is they're running into a brick wall, and they're saying it's impossible, right, to do. I'm a member of a crypto lawyer group, and most of the crypto lawyers there are affiliated with Ethereum or EVM-related projects. If you talk to them about this, they say it's impossible to do that. And you say, well, Chia did it. They say, well, you're just in the tank for Chia because they made Marmot coin, and you like marmots. I say, no, like I get it, but like it's not Chia specifically. Like this is a very deliberate design choice on their part that anyone could copy. But if Ethereum were to copy it, you'd wind up having breaking changes to the protocol, right? So essentially the whole universe is figuring out hosted UIs are a problem. And as soon as they figure that out, they run into a second problem, which is, okay, if we're getting rid of the hosted UIs, our application breaks because Ethereum won't let us build something, and we can't run a node, right, an Ethereum node, because it's too unwieldy, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we're going. We're in the middle of this shift we're at the very beginning of a shift in terms of design philosophies, which is a direct response to U.S. regulatory intervention. Chia is ahead of the curve. Most of the rest of crypto is behind it.
Yeah, and I just add one technical note. One of the key things that Chia has is a light wallet protocol, so you don't necessarily have to run a node per se to be able to be fully decentralized. You can basically, you may not know this, but what's going on in the background with your Chia wallet is it's actually going out to the 100,000 nodes and querying them and doing some proofs to make sure that the results they're getting are right, so that even the barrier to entry of I need to run a node is not necessarily there. Now, I know our light wallet has not been as excellent as we would like, and that's one of the things we want to fix, but point being, that's a key piece of the critical infrastructure to remain decentralized.